Thank you for your interest in the secondary education and social change in the UK since 1945, Key Stage 3 History School Resource Packs. This video explains who we are, how and why we decided to create these lessons, and how you can use them. First of all, let us briefly introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Peter Mandler. I'm a professor of modern cultural history at Cambridge University, and I'm the director of the Secondary Education and Social Change Project based here at Cambridge.
Hi, I'm Jeppesen. I'm a postdoctoral researcher on the project, also a historian of modern Britain and education.
I'm Laura Carter. I'm also a postdoctoral researcher on the Secondary Education and Social Change since 1945 project. My research focuses on education, social change, and especially the education and work of women and girls in the 20th century in Britain.
Hi, I'm Thwaite. I'm the Public Engagement Coordinator, and I've been managing the School Resource Packs project.
Secondary education and social change in the United Kingdom since 1944, that's a big mouthful. I'm going to call it just SESC, is a project that was set up in 2017 with money from one of the government funding bodies, the Economic and Social Research Council. And the basic idea behind our project as a research project is to think about the impact that universal secondary education has had on the citizenry of the United Kingdom since the Second World War. Before the Second World War, only about 20% of the population had any experience of secondary education. People just went to primary school and then went into the workplace. And since the war, everyone has gone to secondary school. And what we've been asking is, well, what difference does this make to people's individual lives, to their experiences as young people, to their experiences in later life as they're growing up, in their relations with their peers, their families, their communities. And we know quite a lot about the growth of secondary education in post-war Britain, but mostly the story has been told as a story of what politicians do to make it happen. The Butler Act of 1944, which is the act that makes secondary education compulsory, the development of comprehensive schools in the 1960s. But what our project tries to do is to look at the experience of secondary education from the point of view of those people who are passing through it. And we think that this will not only tell us something about secondary education itself and what difference it makes in people's lives, but it also acts as a wonderful mirror on the whole of society, because anything like secondary schooling, which everyone experiences at a really influential phase of their lives, is going to reflect and to some extent cause the social changes that are going on all around us, how people move from one class to another, how gender roles and attitudes change, how we become a multicultural society, how we become a multi-faith society, or maybe even a more secular society. Really, there's hardly any aspect of the life of our society which isn't reflected in, and we think also changed by, the fact that everyone is going to secondary school from age 11, initially up to age 15. As we progress through the post-war decades, people spend longer and longer in secondary education, so that now everyone is having this really influential experience for 7 years, from 11 to 18. Really, the world is our oyster because, as I've said, secondary education is such an important part of everyone's life through their teenage years. But we're looking at things like, how does the fact that people go to different kinds of schools affect their subsequent trajectory, independent schools or state schools, or more importantly, different kinds of state schools? We're looking at how are changing gender roles and experiences reflected in secondary education. Do boys and girls get the same opportunities in school, or are they doing different things and being treated differently? And do they rebel against that and come to expect and get more equal treatment over time? How are people's lives affected by being educated initially, mostly in an all-white environment, to one which there are many communities of color that are intermingling, and Black and white and brown children are learning about each other and their communities side by side? And as I say, there's almost no aspect of contemporary life that can't be studied through this really vital lens of the universal secondary education experience.
Over the course of the project's lifespan, which is about 4 years, we have been creating a variety of different outputs, many of which you can see on our website or Twitter feed, and have made a real effort to try and engage with as wide audiences as possible. But key to us was that working on a project that looks at schools, we really wanted to be able to engage and hopefully excite secondary school pupils with our research and get them to think about how they might also start to think about and analyse these themes, and also contribute to our understanding of how these changes Peter's talked about impacted in terms of their school environments and also their understanding of post-1945 British history. We spoke to PGCE coordinators and teachers when we were starting to think about producing resources, and many made the point that whilst teachers often have fantastic access to ideas, different ways of thinking about historical change, they didn't always have access to the primary source material which university-based historians tend to base their analysis on. And in that sense, what we could do by working with a group of secondary school teachers is to make that access more readily available and to start to allow people to see the type of material that we're using in our own research. We want the resources to fit within the Key Stage 3 curriculum, particularly around pupils who are coming up to GCSE history as a way of thinking about British history in the 20th century, the relationship between local and national contexts, to start to think about the types of categories that they will use as historians as they move forward. So you'll see in the packs there's a focus on gender, on class, on race and ethnicity, which are absolutely central to how we have been exploring these questions.
We also wanted to use these resource packs as a way of getting pupils to think about social history in modern Britain. We tried to capture a diversity of experiences within the packs. We want pupils to think about the complexity of modern Britain and the complexity of the historical narratives that we tell about modern Britain, and to use our primary source material and our archival research to explore these. So we hope the packs will allow pupils to develop those core subject skills, give teachers access to primary sources, as well as giving them planning support. And we found it incredibly useful ourselves as historians at university to work with secondary school teachers to see how they've actually turned our research into classroom materials. So hopefully they'll provide an exciting and enjoyable way of exploring a period of history, which is incredibly interesting, incredibly relevant to the ways in which we understand our world today, and a diverse set of insights into how modern Britain has emerged and developed.
In order to create these resources, we hired 4 secondary school history teacher consultants to create the resource packs with us and combine insights from our research on how educational experiences after 1945 fueled wider processes of social change with their own classroom experience and expertise. We held several meetings with the history teacher consultants where we swapped ideas, they got a feel of our research, and we gave them a wealth of resources to get stuck into, materials that Peter, Chris and Laura have come across in their archival research, like school logbooks, punishment books, photographs, oral histories, inspectors' reports, school floor plans, newspaper clippings, school magazines, examples of pupil homework and timetables, adverts, and parent-teacher activism materials. Then, over the course of the following weeks and months and several meetings later, we refined the packs and the lessons and the classroom activities, the inquiry questions, and the source material as the packs evolved. So these Key Stage 3 history school resource packs all focus on one main research question. In what ways do schools reflect social change in the UK since 1945? However, each teacher consultant has also created an individually themed pack. The Gender and Sexuality pack, created by teacher consultant Molly Navy, explores how school life seems to have been shaped by changing attitudes to gender and sexuality between 1945 and 2015. It looks at the effects of gender differences on school life, attitudes to sexuality, and experiences of LGBT pupils and teachers, and asks pupils to examine how historians have interrogated these questions through a rich range of images, texts, and videos. The Class and Social Mobility pack, created by history teacher consultant Andrew Stacey Chapman, focuses on the inquiry question, how far has mass education been responsible for changes in class and social mobility since 1945? The lessons introduce the bipartite system of education and the impact this had on class and social mobility, the impact of experiences of comprehensivization in the 1960s, and allows pupils to make a judgment about the impact of education on class and social mobility in the final quarter of the 20th century. Andrew's lessons present statistical resources in a way that's accessible to all key pupils in Key Stage 3, supplementing the stats with excerpts of key text and video. The Race and Ethnicity Pack, created by teacher consultant Hannah Cusworth, asks, what do secondary schools reveal about changing attitudes towards race since 1945? Through a mixture of sources, including photographs, official documents, activism materials, and pupil work, this pack shows the pupils' responses to growing numbers of children of colour in the UK, explores the impact of policies of quote-unquote assimilation, engages with responses of the community, especially parents, to the treatment of pupils of colour, looks at the Black community's attitudes towards Blackness, explores the existence and response to increased far-right activity, and examines attitudes towards multiculturalism. Finally, the Everyday School Life Pack, created by teacher consultant Johnny Sellin, uses a range of different sources in 5 thematic lessons. Architecture, which looks at the problems school planners faced in the aftermath of the Second World War. Corporal punishment, which examines the ending of corporal punishment and how and why different causal factors came together. Homework, and why this is a surprisingly difficult yet nevertheless informative topic to research. School dinners and how they can reveal the ordinary, the extraordinary, and wider societal debate since 1945. And uniform, interrogating the different opinions held about uniform by pupils, staff, parents, and campaigners. All in all, this pack explores how everyday experiences of secondary school in the second half of the 20th century might provide insight into Britain's wider social history. Each pack contains material for historical inquiry around 6 lessons in length. However, they're designed to hopefully be flexible for teachers to choose the number of lessons they wish to deliver. The lessons are comprised of primary source material, focused activities, and historiographical debates. In order to bring our research to life, we also created a series of videos featuring historians and academics who are experts in their field, who offer an overview of their research and then examine one textual and one visual source. We hope that this engagement with scholars will not only help pupils see how these scholars use the same sources that pupils have in front of them, but will also show pupils that historians are just real, normal people. Our school resource packs aim to present teachers with everything that they will need to teach pupils in an informed and a confident way. Alongside the lesson PowerPoints for each pack, you'll find a set of resources to correspond with each lesson, as well as comprehensive teacher notes to assist you no matter your level of subject knowledge. We wanted to make sure that even if teachers are unfamiliar with the topics, anyone can feel comfortable getting to grips with the material and how the lessons and activities work through thorough guidance. Our aim was to primarily make the resources fit within the Key Stage 3 curriculum, where there's a focus on core themes of post-war British history. However, we encourage teachers to use and adapt the resource packs for whichever year group they see fit. And we've already had feedback that teachers think the resources would work well with GCSE and A-level classes too. Finally, we encourage any teachers who use the resources to let us know how they get on by filling out a feedback form, a link to which you'll find on the Historical Association website or on our project website. We hope that you enjoy using the Secondary Education and Social Change in the UK since 1945 Key Stage 3 History School Resource Packs.